Namaste, welcome to meditation at the Recovery Cafe. As we begin, I want to express gratitude to the cafe and the staff who make this possible. And gratitude to the teachers who share their knowledge about these practices that are very old. As we begin, I want you to become aware of the form. It's useful over time to find a way every time you begin to practice to begin in the same way so that you refine your understanding of how to do this practice. For some, meditation is not easy. And even for those who find it easy, there are times when you've got to come back to something that allows you to get a start that's possible. Sometimes there are moments of difficulty and you want to put the meditation off. Once you come back to the form or the ritual that you've established for yourself, then you can go ahead with your meditation. So we begin with noticing our form, noticing the body. And you want there to be some alertness in your form. If you are too comfortable, it's easy to kind of drift off into your imagination. So we begin with noticing the form itself, my feet. In this case, we're sitting on a chair. I want to be sure that I can feel my feet touching. I don't want my heels to be off the floor so the legs are dangling down off of the chair. And I don't want to have the chair to be so high that the backs of the thighs are not on the chair. So take a few moments to adjust yourself if you need to. And then begin to come away from the back of the chair so that you can feel your body leaving the back of the chair and feeling the weight of your body coming onto your sitting bones. Your sitting bones are the bottom of your pelvis, and they rest on the chair. The legs, the bones of the legs come into them from the side. See if you can feel that. If you rock forward a little bit, you can feel the weight of the body going on to what? What do you feel weight of body coming onto? For me, I feel it going onto the backs of my thighs as I kind of come off sitting bones a little bit. But when I rock back, I find myself centering on them. If I go too far, I go past equal balance. If I go too far forward, same thing, I can feel that I'm not being able to rest comfortably on my sitting bones. Noticing now the head and the shoulders. I'm going to move the shoulders a little bit just to loosen them up, that you're aware of them, maybe one at a time or together. But you can feel the weight of them and the heaviness of the arms as they kind of pull down. And then noticing the head. Let the chin come down toward the notch of the neck, and keeping that gentle contraction, bring the back of the neck back so the face looks forward. And then kind of check out your entire body now, the feet, the thighs, the backs of the thighs touching the chair, the weight of the body on the pelvis, the torso, the distribution of the weight of the head and shoulders over the hips. So now we've focused on the body. I want to talk a little bit about the next step in our process of getting started, this meditation. Who's here for you today? Who's here at this moment? This is not about who else is in the room with you, but about how do I perceive myself? What state of consciousness are you in internally. I spent many years running printing presses. Some machines were as big as this building. The skill that I needed then to keep the machine running and to fix it, I don't need that now. But if I try to bring that attitude to this practice, to keep this practice running and to fix it if things go wrong, that's not useful. I don't need to fix anything. The mind runs all by itself, doesn't need any help. So what do I bring here? I want to be able to just look. I want to be able to just look at what is appearing in my consciousness. I can open my eyes to see the room around me, looking. And if I close my eyes, I look internally. This is a practice of just looking. So I want to know who's looking this morning, who's looking at this practice. This looking is just to see, not to fix, or to keep running, or even to understand. Just to look. So what do we look at? We begin by looking at the breath. The breath that enters the body, the breath that goes out of the body. Now we use the breath because it's always there. If a thought comes in and I get carried away by the thought, I come back to my breath and notice the breath again, and the thought drifts away. Thoughts are like that. They come, they dissolve. And the breath is like that also, in the sense that it's broken down into the breath that comes in and the breath that goes out. Let your awareness go back to your body now again for a moment, reestablishing your connection with it. You want to be sure there's some integrity in your spine. As we sit, sometimes we kind of lose that and kind of drop into the practice. You want to sit back up again, rock forward onto your sitting bones, pull the shoulder blades together and down, the weight of the arms, tuck the chin, bring the back of the neck back a little so the face is gazing straight forward. And then come back to your breath. The breath that comes in, the breath that goes out, the breath that enters, the breath that leaves. So we've spoken about the body, adjusting the body. We've spoken about the breath a bit. And we've spoken about the awareness, who's here to be looking at this practice. How do you experience your breath? How do you know that it's moving in and moving out? What sensation do you feel? Just being aware of that. The sensation is not the same for the breath that enters or the breath that goes out. Four or five breathing cycles allow you to look more carefully at that variation. The breath that comes in, the life force of that is very clear. I can feel the freshness of the breath that comes in. And so what about the breath that goes out? It's different. There's none of that brightness in that breath. It's very different, more subtle. Spend a few moments comparing the sensation that the body experiences as you watch the body experience the breath that enters and the breath that leaves. You may notice that some breaths are not as long as other breaths. There's a variation in how much time moves in the way the breath cycles. Allow the breaths to get a little bit longer if you can by relaxing more and more into the experience of the breath. Not trying to force it to be longer, but in the softness of awareness, let the breath come in more slowly and for a longer period of time. And leave. Once again, not forcing, just being present to the way the body breathes. Now, it may be that you want to use a word to talk about your experience of your breath. We're focusing here in the beginning of this meditation practice on the mind being aware of the way the breath enters the body, the way the breath goes out of the body, in a more cognitive sense. You notice I'm using the word enter, goes out, leaving the body. I'm also noticing that the breath goes in and down when I inhale. The use of the word down kind of takes me into cognition, reminds me that there is the material world, up and down, as the breath goes out, goes up. That completely changes my orientation to experiencing my breath. I've added something to that as I put those words in there, in and down. So my perception of in and down and the associations that I have about that are mine. Yours are yours. Being able to be aware of what going out and up implies. Where does it go? If it goes up. Where does it go if it goes down? Those are locations. Or pointing to locations. Over time, this can become a very important practice. To notice when the breath comes in and down, it comes from somewhere that is outside the body. When it goes out and up, it goes somewhere that is outside the body. Being present to that is important. This body that I walk around in, is not separate from the world that it walks around in, that I watch. The breath comes in from that world, it goes out to that world. If I open my eyes as I exhale, I can see that world. If I close my eyes as I take the breath in, that vision returns for a moment before it dissolves in my awareness. Sometimes when I open my eyes, a different person pops up and begins to practice. I want to see that change. As I begin to notice that I am not always that person that's balanced and focused and present to every moment in the same way, I often cannot control the thoughts that come into my mind or the way that I perceive the world and the effect that that has when I open and see. But as I close my eyes, I can come back and see that. So that's one aspect of thinking of the direction the breath is going to, coming from, going in and down and out and up. Another aspect of using these words in this way is to think of that part of the world we share that we do not see, the part that is behind us. As you allow yourself to focus on your breath coming in and coming out, as you open your eyes as you exhale, can your awareness bring in that which is not seen by your eyes, which is behind you? We're all sitting someplace. It's impossible to not always be someplace. So what is behind you? As you open your eyes and gaze at the world that you see when they open, can you include the whole range of perception that's possible behind you? And as you close your eyes, what remains? The spaciousness that we feel when we close our eyes after gazing forward is enlarged when I close my eyes and now include the whole space within which I'm practicing. We're going to go to another level of practice here for a moment. So let your breath return to natural breathing. You may want to actually sit back and relax if you're tired of sitting. And let that softness of relaxation move through your body. That feeling of letting go, of maintaining that integrity, just letting it go, letting your body come back to itself. We're going to go to a part of our practice where I'm going to encourage you to use that physical sensation to better understand a sensation that occurs as we practice letting the breath go, letting the awareness go, letting our reaching out and grasping go, to just be present to looking and seeking nothing, fixing nothing, going nowhere, being nobody. And sit back up again. Let your awareness return to your breath, but now with the focus on the exhalation. Try not to control the breath, but do try to make the breath a little bit longer coming in so you have more breath to focus on as the breath leaves the body. When the exhalation, when the breath leaving the body begins, focus on that. It's much more subtle than the awareness of the breath coming in. There is that space before the exhalation begins that if you focus on that with clarity, it's easier to be present to that beginning of the breath leaving the body. As if you're being pulled into some state of a being awareness that is more clear and more subtle. As the breath leaves the body, sometimes there's almost no breath at all, so that requires close attention. And close attention, especially to that moment when the inhalation, breath coming in, arises. By making that inhalation longer, I can now prolong and lengthen and spend more time with the breath leaving the body. Partly because I brought in more breath, more prana, more life force, so I can be more at ease in my exhalation. Being more at ease is important because I want to ask you to, as the exhalation begins to go away, dissolve, and you become less aware of it, allow the body to physically relax in the same way that you did when you lean back against your chair. And allow that relaxation to spread through your awareness. And the very nature of your looking. You're not looking for anything. That space, we spoke about a space that we cannot see, space behind us, is not unlike the space that occurs as the breath dissolves. And we're pulled into the energy of the breath coming in. Coming back to the slow movement of the breath leaving the body. Allowing that dissolution of awareness, losing contact with it. That restraint to last as long as it can, and letting the body completely let go of any effort to fix it, to make it happen. Waiting for that arising that occurs as I let go completely. And the freshness of that perception. A couple more breathing cycles. Long breath coming in, longer, softer, more complete. Being present to the moment when the inhalation is full. The exhalation begins, and making the soft movement of the breath leaving the body and pausing, dissolving completely. Relaxing the body, relaxing the attention to just be here, simply being. So in this meditation practice, we focus on that simple act of awareness. It is occurring all the time. That is all there is. All the time. It's always present. Thoughts come, they go. Sensations come, they go. Feelings come, they go. Conditions come, they go. But that awareness is always, always there. Being able to abide in that with skill. Meditation is skill. To say yes to that awareness and pretty much no to everything else is the essence of this practice. In meditation, we don't go into a shavasana. Maybe we relax our form a little bit to let the mind go back into that moment of something that really perhaps stood out in the practice. And knowing that that moment of clarity will be useful over and over again as you deepen your skill in this practice. Thank you for coming. Those come up at just the right time.